Hey, what's up? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast. I believe it's episode 27 or 28, but we will be recapping season 5, episode 7 of Power today. I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
Hey, I'm back. I'm alive. Yay!
Cool. Yeah, this was a very interesting episode, and after this episode, we only have 3 episodes left. So I think that we're really beginning to build towards whatever's coming. The big plot twist, wherever it is at the end of the season. It seems like they're setting up quite a few things in this episode. But let's just talk through some of the things that happened. So I mean, first of all, I just want to acknowledge the very power like dual sex scene that happened at like the start of the show. There was a double sex scene essentially, which was I was wondering when we were going to get some of that again because it seems like there hadn't been too much recently. But yeah, just wanted to acknowledge that before we get into the story stuff. So let's start off with Tommy first of all. Tommy's progression throughout this episode is very heavily tied to Teresi and what's going on with him. Obviously we see Mock and Sax putting pressure on Teresi to try and get dirt on Angela. So they want, Teresi to get Tommy to talk about Angela and stuff like that. And I guess Teresi tries to gain Tommy's trust a little bit. He invites him out to punish this guy, I guess, who earns money. It's him and Sammy and Tommy who go to do that, and they torture him basically. I think they end up killing him too, but we don't actually like see him die or anything. And then later on in the episode, we see Teresi invite Tommy back to to have some food with him and his wife. His wife earlier, of course, saw his conversation with Sax and John Mock. So she actually gave him the advice that he shouldn't try to lock up his son and snitch on him, because when she's gone, there's going to be no one to take care of him. Now it doesn't seem like Teresi takes this advice on board, because he still continues to try and set up Tommy throughout the episode. But there is an interesting scene where they're dining together, and then Tommy's mother shows up, and that's very interesting. So yeah, I mean, what would you guys think about what was going on with Tommy? There was also a few interesting scenes with Angela. And one thing I want to say is, like, how does he keep managing to like break into her apartment, break into her car? Like, is he a master thief or something? Like, what's going on here? But yeah, what do you guys think of what's going on with Tommy in this episode? Go ahead, Rich.
Well, first off, to answer that question of why Tommy is able to constantly break in, I think it's obviously because Angela doesn't believe in having an alarm, whether it's in her apartment or in her car, apparently, because he gets in very easily. So it must be what's going on with that. But as for Tommy, yeah, he was a major focal point of this episode. I do think it's very interesting that Connie does know that Tommy is Teresi's son and planted that seed that, you should definitely, keep him around because I won't always be here. So I think that is introducing that there is going to be a situation later where, I mean, I know we saw the scene where Teresi pretty much is telling them about what's going on with Ghost, but I still think it's going to come a point where he's going to have to make a decision. And I will also add that Sammy, because Sammy is in on this plan with Teresi to take down Tommy. I really do think when we got that scene a couple episodes ago where Teresi had to either kill Tommy or Sammy, I do think that is essentially going to happen again, because if Teresi does change his mind on Tommy, I mean, Sammy is not going to be with that, because I'm pretty sure Sammy is still angry that Tommy got him out of business with the Italians. So I do think that situation is going to come to a head at some point in time, because even though Teresi, it would appear as though he is completely going to go against Tommy, looks as though to me he wants to go after Ghosts. But Tommy is tied to that also. But I think as the episodes continue, he may still, because he may think that Connie has a point, and then it's always possible that Connie could die before the season is over. And then at that point, that will put more pressure on Teresi to really think about what she said in regards to his son. So we'll have to see how that plays out. As for the dinner, the interruption of his mother, I think we figured sooner or later that this was going to happen, because we know that she dislikes Tony, and she kept saying that you need to stay away from him. He's a bad influence. So I was surprised that she was able to find where he lives and was able to come there, but I guess they had to have that at some point in time. They had to have that confrontation. So I do think that the mother may find out some information and may try to say something to the police about Teresi. Because I mean, there's no way that the way that whole conversation went down, there's no way that that's just going to end. She's probably going to try to do something to take him down, but we have to wait and see how that plays out. But overall, yeah, there's a lot going on with Tommy in this episode. I also add that yes, he did get back with Lala, aka Keisha, and they also had a love scene. Very, very toned down from the last one that we saw. So I guess Carmelo Anthony, maybe he had some complaints and they took that to heart. But yeah, I find it interesting how he does get back with Keisha, but yet this is a bad situation because there's a lot going on with Tommy. Keisha obviously didn't want to get involved in any of this other stuff, but she is walking right into that now that she is back in a relationship with him. It's not looking good for either one of them. But still, I'm glad to see what they did with Tommy in this episode. They presented this whole thing with Teresi, so I'm very curious to see how they handle this moving forward, because it can go in multiple ways. He either can turn on Tommy as originally planned, or he can say, okay, you know what, I will try to keep Tommy around. But it's going to be interesting to see which path they ultimately take. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Tommy in this episode.
Cool. What do you think, Dana?
This episode was very much a odd bonding father and son experience, just through violence and torture. It's nice to see that Tommy, has someone that he feels that he can connect to out there, but I don't think this is going to be something that's long lasting. I do wonder whether or not Teresi is going to kind of really regret trying to snitch on Tommy in order to get his full immunity thing. I think that he will have some type of regret, but I don't know. See, that's the thing. The thing is that he just now knew about this boy. It's not like he grew up and raised Tommy, even by himself, or has that kind of close bond. So it's like, yeah, he may feel guilty for what he's doing, but at the same time, he may still do it anyway because he does not have that kind of bond. And at the end of the day, it is just about him, and he's always been selfish in that regard. So I don't know if Tommy is out of the woods yet in regards to him possibly going back to jail because of his father. I will say that I did enjoy this episode and their bonding experience when they went and tortured the guy with the drill. That was interesting to see. Also, him returning back to Lala, that was kind of like a weird situation. Remember, she kept rejecting him, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're back together again, and she's having dinner with Tasha, and she's smiling and glowing about that. So that relationship to me is still kind of muddled, and I don't know how that's going to play out in the end. But overall, I'm kind of worried about Tommy, and we'll get into this later with the whole Kanan situation. But for now, at this moment, it's nice to see him just happy when he was at the dinner table. And even though his mother came in and was very belligerent and tried to say, that's my son, and I bet you didn't know that he had an affair. And she's like, yeah, I already knew. and she just didn't care. Remember when she slapped Teresi after like that huge thing of like, oh, do you forgive me, in that huge speech. But I don't think that their relationship is going to end up being happily ever after. I do see Tommy's mother being right about this whole thing in the end. And even though Teresi's wife gave that speech about, you're not going to have anyone left. You once you turn in Tommy, you're not going to have anyone. Essentially, it's going to just be you. I still don't feel that that's enough for him not to turn on Tommy. It needs to be something more. Because, like I said before, this is not a lifelong relationship. So we'll see.
Yeah, I got a couple things to say regards to Tommy. So firstly, like I just like I don't know if I'm buying how ignorant he is to Teresi's like, digging and trying to find out what's going on with him all the time and stuff like that. Like, because it seemed to me like earlier on in the season, he was actually pretty paranoid about, Teresi and, like saying things to him and everything. And now all of a sudden he just trusts him, even though he keeps asking him all these different questions and stuff, like he still just trusts him blindly. And that's a bit weird to me, considering that he was kind of like, paranoid earlier on, but now it's just like he's plain old ignorant Tommy again. So that's a bit confusing to me. And with the Lala thing, I agree that, she was a bit too willing, like, to get back with him, considering that she was reluctant before. And what that tells me is that they really want to put them back together for something specific. So I don't know, maybe Lala finds out, that Teresi is trying to snitch. Maybe when she goes to dinner with them, she overhears Teresi having a phone call or something, and maybe she's going to be the one that actually finds out or something like that. And I do feel like when Tommy when Tommy does find out that that's the case, I think there's going to be a dramatic scene where he goes to murder his father, and I think that Sammy is going to be a part of that scene too. I think he's going to be a very important part. Now, whether he's going to help Teresi or Tommy, who knows? But I think he's probably going to be in the picture at that point, for some reason. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I definitely feel like that's incoming before the end of the season at some point. So yeah, interesting things with Tommy. Let's move on to Dre. So few things happened with Dre. He meets with Diego, and of course, last week he set up the agreement with Jamie that Jamie would kill the Diego Jimenez, and Dre would kill Jason. So Dre is actually trying to put this plan into motion. He's trying to set things up for Jamie, and he meets with Diego. He exchanges some money with him, and then he invites him to a sex party, if you will, for later that night. And I have to say that Diego is like he must like be a sex addict to kind of agree to this and not suspect something like I don't know like what this guy's hobbies are or whatever, but like he seemed a bit too happy to go to that party. But yeah, so he sets that up, and it's actually revealed that Dre is going to turn on he wants to turn on Jamie. He actually tells Two Bit that he wants Jamie dead after Jamie does the deed. But little does he know, Jamie actually, changes the plan. There's a scene earlier in the episode where, Jamie meets with Kanan, and he tells Kanan to do the job. And, we're going to talk about Kanan some more right after Dre. But, later on in the episode, we see Dre show up to kill Jason. And then, Jason's already gone because Kanan helps him and everything. And yeah, so now Dre is kind of, it's getting to the point where he's becoming disposable because, now Kanan and Jason are going to want to kill the other Jimenez, the sister, Alicia. And, they're probably going to use Dre to get to her. So once that happens, it's like Dre is completely disposable at that point. So what do you guys think about Dre's moves and, you know, how he operated in this episode? And do you think that his demise might be incoming soon? Go ahead, Dana. You go first.
I am muted. I am sorry. Yes, I do. I do not see him lasting very long. We said we have like around 3 more episodes left, and I was surprised that he wasn't taken out already. But I don't see him lasting. He's just causing too much of confusions and troubles, and at the end of the day, he's just really not an important character enough for them to keep on, I feel. So he's going to meet his demise, if not in the next episode, definitely by the finale. Or another thing, maybe he won't and he meet his demise at the next season, because by them killing Dre at this moment, remember there's always this confusion with the gun that's going on with the case. And they're trying to find out, remember when Angela, we'll get into that later, screwed up with the whole bullet in the wall thing. I think if they jump up and kill Dre, it might cause more confusion or draw more to the case. So maybe he won't exactly die this season, but I do see him dying. When, I don't know, but he is dying.
Interesting. What's your thoughts, Rich?
So first off, let me respond to something you said about Diego. I just want to make a comment. Yeah, the character does appear to be a sex addict, but I will say this, to quote you, Gary, they have done a hell of a lot more character development with him than they have with Jason. So I'll give him credit for that. But yes, to stay on the topic of Dre, I feel that Dre is a dead man walking. And when I look at Dre and how they have presented him this season with all of the issues going on within his own organization and people turning on him, it reminds me very much of what happened with Tommy. And when he was in his organization and Dre was the one that turned the tables on him. Now, in this case, though, yeah, I feel that Dre is definitely going to die. And I do know that the preview clip that we saw of the next episode alluded to that fact once again, when Tommy and Ghost have the conversation of we got to kill Dre. So yeah, I would not be surprised if he's taken out before the season is over, because as we'll get into later, it appears that Kanan is going to be the threat that they have to worry about, which was initially the plan from the very beginning, but for some reason they had them all as a team, and we already knew that Kanan was no good, but that's the path that they're headed in. But as for Dre, yeah, there's a lot going on with this character now. As I said on last week's show, I did not like this team up agreement between him and Jamie, because again, I know that they have ulterior motives, but I was like, I didn't really like how that whole thing went down. Now, obviously, as you already said, Gary pretty much said in this episode that Dre was planning to turn on Ghost. So that's fine for explanation purposes, but the whole thing of them working together, it just didn't seem realistic from the very beginning when they introduced it last week. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Dre is definitely on borrowed time. And like I said, if it happens next week or within the next couple of weeks, I will not be surprised. It definitely has to happen, though, because that is how you change the whole story. Because, again, as with what happened with Tommy, when he went through the stuff that he went through, he still was able to survive. So the writers cannot make it the same situation where Dre is able to survive unless they do it a different way. So we'll just have to wait and see how they handle that.
Yeah, like I don't, at this point, I don't see how you could not kill him. You know, either you kill him or he just runs away, like he, leaves New York and I don't know, goes to some other country or something like that to hide out. But yeah, Dre has to be gone at some point, because I feel like at this point he's not bringing that much to the show with his character progression. So like, it's kind of inevitable. Like, you know, he needs to go at this point. And if he doesn't die, then I think it's just the story's going to continue being a bit convoluted because you know, there's only so many times you can get him to pair up with Jamie again. And you know, I mean, he started out being an enemy, and then you know, now he's on talking terms with Jamie, and of course he wants to kill him, and it's fake and everything. But it's like, how many times are you going to do that? If you keep this guy alive, then stuff like that is going to keep reoccurring, and it's going to get tired at some point. So I definitely feel like Dre needs to go, and ideally, I think it should happen before, you know, the end of the season. So like next week even, because yeah, I just feel like his character's not bringing that much to the show right now.
Question: was anyone really surprised that Dre turned on Ghost? I mean, they don't exactly have a peachy keen history, and they just spent what last season trying to kill him, and then they opened it with the whole thing of him should have been dead. So I don't. No one should really be surprised by this at all.
Yeah, I know Rich last week said that he thinks that, you know, one of them will turn on each other, and yeah, I mean, that turned out to be true. But I just still
Someone when you're already enemies.
Yeah, I just still found the agreement really weird though. Like even if they were going to turn on each other, I just find it really weird that they're that calm around each other, and that, you know, because at the start of the season it was like, oh, we are kill this dude right away, like as soon as possible, and it's like now they're standing in front of each other making agreements. Like it just seemed surreal to me. But
well yeah. Oh no, go ahead.
I thought the downfall of Dre's storyline was when they opened it up and he was at the graveyard and he's like, you're not gonna kill me. That right there just seemed, and ever since then, his whole storyline has just plummeted. And his importance to the show, Power, just plummeted as well.
yeah.
So his death, I feel, would have been more impactful if they went with it originally of him dying in the first episode. If he dies now in the end, say, or even next season, it doesn't have that same impact. It just feels like you're dragging this along. We wanted retribution right then and there. But this is like, oh, and 10 years later, he finally dies. I just don't get it.
Yeah. It's really weird. And plus, like, nobody likes Dre at the moment. Like, even his own, like, people, like his own staff are turning against him. Cristobal doesn't like him. Diego didn't like him. Like, nobody likes him right now. So it's like,
well, hold on a second. The sister likes him.
Yeah, I guess she kind of, you know, flirts a little bit, but
that's the only one. But only because he is bringing money, you know, to their organization. That's the only reason that she would like him, because he's doing his job business wise.
Yeah. I see it as she's kind of using him, like, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, no. One point I was just going to say real quick. No, I definitely wasn't surprised that Dre is intending to turn on Ghost. That's not the surprise. My whole thing is, it seems like ever since this season started, the writers are going the route of, well, let's have all these pair-ups, these pair-ups that you won't necessarily expect, to try to make it a strange situation. Like last week we had, of course, as they've been building all season, Tasha teaming up with Angela. Then you had Angela with Tommy. So I when this happened with Dre and Ghost, I figured, okay, yeah, so that's what they're doing. They're playing musical chairs with the characters, having them come to some type of agreement on something or some type of interaction, other than the person actually getting killed. But like y'all both said, hopefully Dre is taken out next week or soon, because yeah, his story doesn't really make sense in the grand scheme of things. And now that you know everybody is plotting against him, yeah, I think it's only a matter of time before he's taken out.
Yeah. Yeah, like what you said is like so real. Like I think like this is basically turned into the crime version of Friends, because it's like like all the characters are just having like scenes with each other basically. Like it's like really weird. Because it feels like back in the early days of Power, if two characters cross paths, it would be a big deal, or you know, it would mean something to the story. But now it's like, you know, musical chairs, like you said, just different characters interacting like all the time, and it's really weird. But yeah, there's not much left for Dre, I think. But moving on to Kanan. Kanan played a big part of this episode. Of course, there was that meeting at the top of the episode with the trio and Jason. And Jason puts pressure on everyone to kill the Jimenez. Of course, Jamie already had that plan in motion. And he actually, you know, I found it funny how he just basically pushed the responsibility onto Kanan, you know, so he didn't even like take any part in it himself. But yeah, he basically gave that responsibility to Kanan. And then we actually got to learn about what Kanan's actual motivation is. So he wants to take the drug trade from Tommy. You know, he wants to get Jason as a connect for himself. You know, and then we have that scene that Dana referred to, where you know at near the end of the episode where Kanan says he thinks Tommy and Jamie will take each other out at some point. So that suggests that he might try and play them against each other. And of course, he has a relationship going on with Tariq as well. So he could even use that to kind of manipulate the situation a little bit. And of course, he has 2-Bit on his side. And yeah, so I mean, he's in a position of power right now. He's maneuvering behind the scenes, you know, away from all the characters. He's probably like one of the only characters who doesn't always play super friends. I mean, of course he does with Jamie and Tommy a lot of the time, and some of the other crime people, but you wouldn't see him in scenes with like Angela or something like that. So he's always kind of behind the scenes just doing stuff. And yeah, his character progression is getting pretty interesting, and I want to see where it leads to. But what did you guys think of Kanan in this episode? Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and let people know, you know, everybody here knows that you are a 50 Cent fan. So that, you know, but I have to admit, yes, I really like what they're doing with his character, with Kanan. So Kanan is a snake, you know, and obviously from the start of this season, when the Super Friends teamed up, as Dana would say, it's a little ridiculous, you know. What I find interesting, and I'm going to mention this later when we get into some of the other characters, I just find it very interesting how Ghost and Tommy, but especially Ghost, is so gullible to just think you can just trust Kanan. You know that this is a guy that you've had encounters with before. You tried to kill him. You came back. Everything is cool. He saved Tariq, but so no, we're good now. We're good. Everything is squashed. You have to understand, this guy, he can have his other motivations as well. And I just find it a little ridiculous that Ghost wouldn't think, you know, really shouldn't trust anybody at this point. Yes, you can trust Tommy because Tommy is considered family. I don't know if you should consider Kanan family because of the history that y'all both have. So that is a little ridiculous that he doesn't trust that. And of course, when as we will find out in the next couple episodes, I would assume when Kanan does finally show his hand and turns on these guys, I'm very curious to see what the reaction is that both Ghost and Tommy are going to have. But yes, up until this point, Kanan is playing a game of chess and absolutely winning. You know, he's turned Ghost and Tommy are there are stuff that they didn't communicate with each other. So obviously, they both have different things going on that are going to conflict with each other later. You've taken Tariq under your wing after both Ghost and Tommy said, don't talk to Tariq, don't do nothing with him, don't hang out with him, nothing. And Tariq is slowly becoming Ghost 2.0, as we already alluded to on a couple of episodes already. So yeah, Kanan is playing the long game. And then of course, he did say earlier this season that he was planning to take control of the organization. You know, as you said, Gary, yes, now we know his full motivation is to get Jason involved, take all that business and cut Tommy out, which is, yeah, we got a firm understanding of that now. But the fact that he has been able to turn Dre's guys against him. It's just, like I said, Dre is on borrowed time. Like I said, if something doesn't happen next week, it's going to happen soon. But you have to give Kanan props because he has slowly been plotting, getting people to have conflict with each other, and it's finally going to come to a head by the end of the season. But yeah, I think I'm very interested in what they're doing with Kanan. I still want to see what happens with this whole reveal at the end of the season. If Kanan does reveal anything having to do with Tariq, and who his father is. Yes, even though that myth has been debunked, let's see what happens at the end of the season. But yeah, I like what they're doing with Kanan so far.
Yeah, and it feels like he's grooming Tariq, to maybe be part of whatever he's planning. Like maybe we'll see if Kanan succeeds and takes control of the drugs and everything. Maybe we'll see Tariq actually be part of his organization, and then that would cause a lot of interesting conflict between Tariq, Kanan, and Jamie next season, potentially, depending on how things play out. So yeah, I mean, there's so many interesting ways that this can go at this point. But
this I'm sorry, just one point I want to say real quick before you go to Dana. I think you hit it on the head, what you just said, because remember how Ghost was working with Sean, and because they were together, Sean, became a little bit more professional, was trying to be like Ghost almost in how he handled himself business-wise. So yeah, this is how Kanan gets back at Ghost. Take his son and turn him over into the lifestyle that we're all accustomed to. So yeah, I think you hit it on the head, but I don't want to interrupt you. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, for sure. Like that, I can see that parallel there with Sean and everything. And yeah, what was I gonna say? I can't remember, but yeah, Kanan, his progression is very interesting right now. Dana, what's your thoughts?
Super Friends, now with Boy Wonder. This I loved this storyline with him. Remember, he revealed his hand earlier. He just didn't say what he wanted to do. He did say that he wanted to turn Tommy and Ghost against each other. This is the first time that we're hearing about him wanting to take over Tommy's spot, his drug spot thing connection. And I like his progression because he plays right along. He has the conversations and he's joking around with them. But meanwhile, while they're dealing with their own little storylines of, I don't know if my father is real, or, and the other one with the whole gun situation. Kanan is in the back working on his own stuff and he isn't saying anything. But what we got this episode, I loved so much, was him with Tariq. And we saw all of this foreshadowing of Tariq slowly stepping into his father's place, in his father's role. We saw the whole thing. It started with, remember the boy was at school and the white kid came up and he was like really excited to see pills. And he was like, yay, you're selling these? And he's like, no, I'm not selling them. Remember, he texted him and he was like, you can make a lot of money. And he got overly excited. That right there, I felt like is overshadowing Tariq's slowly becoming slowly becoming part of this whole drug thing. And the fact that 50 Cent picked him up and then they had this whole conversation while playing chess about how to take down the enemy, how to watch your back, the sneak attack. And then when he showed up, when he took him to that white guy's house in order to get his money, and remember how he was hitting him, and then he showed him how to beat him up, and they had this weird little bonding experience with each other. And then remember they basically, he called him his son. He take that as you will. I'm still sticking to the theory that that's his actual son. But I see 50 Cent taking a much larger role in the next season. I do see him and his storyline growing. I want to see, and I do kind of see him being able to take over Tommy's spot. And I think that is because both Ghost and Tommy are distracted right now. And by them being distracted with their own problems, this is gonna be more impactful for 50 for Kanan when he's able to take over. Now, I don't think that they'll realize what's fully happening until it's way too late. And so that reaction should be interesting. But if you listen to, what they were saying in the previous episodes, he wants Tommy and Ghost to take each other out. He doesn't want to be found as, like, reveal itself as saying it was me all along. He doesn't want that. He wants it to be like the sneaker things where they just come in and take each other out, and he's able to get Tommy's spot. So I think that it's going to be very interesting how this plays out. I would like to see how this is further strategized. I think that Tariq is going to be very much involved in this right now. Remember, he does not like his father. He does not like his mother. So remember, he kept declining all of the calls during the whole episode. So I do feel that he is going to be able to use Tariq against him, and it may end up being that I'm still sticking to him that being his son. So it may also end up being like a double backstab with, yes, I stole your spot and I stole your son, but technically I stole my son because it was never your son. And then Tasha's all like, I don't know. So I think this is going to be very interesting how this plays out. I'm saying interesting a lot. I apologize, but I'm excited for this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting to see how it all plays out. What I was going to say earlier was I don't understand how Jamie and, like, I mean, Tommy's already shown he kind of doesn't trust him all the way, but Jamie, like, he trusts him a little too much considering what happened last season with Kanan kidnapping Tariq and everything like that, or manipulating him or whatever. And of course, he did end up saving him, when Jukebox was going to kill him and everything. But just because he saved him in that instance, like, why would you still trust Kanan knowing that, this guy took your son and you've had issues with him before? Like, I feel like Jamie's putting a lot of trust into this guy, despite what's happened in the past between them. And that's kind of a bit weird to me as well. But yeah, I mean, as for Kanan, as for Jamie and Tommy taking each other out, I think one of the ways that this could be sparked is we've seen Tommy having a lot of scenes with Angela lately. Maybe Kanan, is following Tommy one time and he sees that Tommy is talking with Angela or something, or visiting her at our apartment or something, and maybe he relays this information to Jamie, and Jamie thinks something is going on, and that might set him off to go and do something to Tommy. So that might be one way that he tries to manipulate that situation. Who knows? I just can't wait to see what, like, the full circle of this character and where it's going. But yeah, moving on to Angela. So yeah, I mean, it feels like her time is quickly running out. Because there's so much, like, her colleagues really want her gone at this point. We see Mock and Sax. They're trying to get Teresi to give up dirt on Angela. They're trying to get Proctor to give up dirt on Angela. And yeah, they're just super desperate to kind of finally bust her, basically. And Angela is of course aware of this now after talking to her colleague and her superior and everything. There's that scene where she talks to Jerry, and Jerry tells her to watch her six because she has no friends in the office. So yeah, it seems like she's ready to make some serious moves. And we see her have a scene with that guy that she slept with, a couple of weeks back, and she asks him for a job in his organization, and he says the only thing that's available is a job in DC. And then later on, she offers this to Mock. She says, if you take this, I think it'll be good for you, blah, blah, blah. So we don't know what's going to happen there. But before that happens, she has a scene with Tommy. And I found this super interesting because Tommy, when he shows up in her car, she actually alludes to the fact that she would be okay with planning the murder of John Mock. Like, she actually alludes to that, and I found that scene like super interesting because that's like a full turn for this character. Like, there's no coming back for her. That's irredeemable. You know, if she goes, like, that's her basically turning to the dark side right there. And it always seemed like, yeah, she was, you know, she did a few little dirty things here and there just because she was in love with Jamie. But this season, it's like she's full on Breaking Bad at this point. Like, she's really turning to the dark side, and she's actually becoming a criminal, you know, bit by bit. So that's what I'm finding interesting about her character. And it's kind of setting up my ideal vision for the show moving forward, which is her and Jamie becoming like a power couple that's able to manipulate everything from the legal side and the street side. Like, that's what I really want to see. But I don't know if that's where they're leading to. But yeah, there's definitely a change in Angela's character right now. So I want to ask you guys what you think. And I'm going to start with you, Dana, because I know you're not the biggest Angela fan, and you know me and you butt heads on that sometimes. But what's your thoughts on Angela in this episode?
Oh, Angela, so sad. Nobody loves her. Nobody wants her, and it's complicated with Jamie right now. Um, I do see her going to DC because the only other option is prison. No one wants to help her, it seems like. And they remember how they gave the speech where John was like, "Oh, I can't wait." No, not John. It was the other guy in the room was like, "I can't wait to see her indicted. It's getting me all hot when they come in and arrest her." So, yeah, she doesn't have any friends. And when she went to Terry, right? When she went to Terry, he was just basically, "I don't know you. And, I'm not saying anything. I don't know you. Just leave. I'm going to ignore you." And so she just doesn't have anything left. And the thing that she kind of seems to have is Jamie. But Jamie right now is facing his own situations where he's trying to avoid jail. So the best thing for her is to go fully dark and to just go to DC. And we still don't even know what it would be doing in DC. Because remember, it was like, "You don't even know what I do." And she's like, "I don't care." So going to DC would be the best thing. But for me personally, what I would love to see is to watch her own downfall and for her to be indicted and to just rot in prison. Yay.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Rich?
All right, so this is the part where I do have a few complaints. Now, let me start off first and say, yeah, I agree. I really much am enjoying the story that they're showing with Angela, her downfall, and the fact that she's making a character turn. Let's first address the situation with Mock. So the conversation she had with Tommy, I also agree with you, Gary. That was an excellent scene, a very poignant scene, I would say, in the whole episode, because that shows you that this character is capable of doing of now. We already knew that she would go above and beyond to get the job done, but now she's willing to get really, really, really dark and grim with her way to solve a problem. Now, the issue I have with this is, obviously, she spoke with that guy, and he said, yeah, about the DC job. And then she presented that offer to Mock. Now, we don't know how that's going to play out, but I will say this right now. I have an issue with that because, think about it, that guy offered her that position in DC. And that's possibly because he thinks that she would take it. And, of course, he is still very much interested in her. So if she gives that position to John Mock, what's going to stop that guy from saying, "Oh, well, this is not who I wanted the job for, so just don't." Then he takes him out of that job. And then we're right back to square one, where John Mock is once again going to go after Angela. Also, the other thing that is worth noting is that they are looking for a reason to lock up Angela. How could Mock or Sachs, for that matter, not look at this as Angela knows something, she's trying to cover up something, this is why she's trying to get Mock out of the picture? How could they not look at that and say, "Well, hold on a second, is this a bribery that she's doing here?" So obviously, I'll give the writers benefit of the doubt because we don't know if that's going to be something that they reveal later next week, that they do suspect she is trying to bribe him, which is why she's trying to push him out. We'll find out about that. But that right there definitely needs to be explained, because I thought to myself, we know John Mock is a very annoying character. As I said last week, this is a character that, but you have to give him credit. He will do whatever he needs to do to take down the bad guys. So I think this is a threat that you have to take out if I was Angela. And I think that she may revisit that later if she needs to revisit it, but it might be too late by that time. But I mean, we have to see how that plays out. The other point I want to make real quick about the other complaint I have is that after we saw what happened last week, and I know we had some people in the comment section that was complaining about the fact that they said, oh, we have this tape file, and then all of a sudden they have Sachs look at the file and the other file and say, wait, hold on. That whole thing with that whole gun ballistics thing, yeah, that possibly needs to be explained a little bit more for the sake of clarity. But the issue I have moving forward is, now that you suspect that Angela is a suspect and is a part of this whole crime thing that started up, with ghosts, why would you not have somebody have surveillance on Angela? The issue I have with how they're doing this is that you see how many times Tasha has come over to the house, how many times Ghost has come over to the house. And then the fact that Tommy is also with Angela, but yet there's nobody watching Angela. Is she such a threat? If you catch her with any one of those people, then you know something is up, and then that's your evidence. So I don't understand why they're making it like, oh, well, we suspect that she's doing something, but we're not going to surveil, we're not going to watch her, we're going to let her hang herself, which is fine. But I just think it's a little ridiculous how you make it seem it's so easy. Ghost shows up, Tasha shows up, and no one is concerned about the police actually watching Angela at this point to see what's going on with where she's living, where she's at, and who she's around. I think that's a little ridiculous. But
I think we have that, because remember they threw down a picture.
Yeah, they had the picture. Yeah, but there was no one in that picture. It was just her.
They have something. I just don't think that they're showing their hand yet to the audience. I do think they have surveillance on her, because they want her to be indicted so badly that would easily be, step number one.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. We'll have to see that play out in the next couple episodes. I'm expecting to definitely see that they have somebody watching something, because when we saw the preview for next week, they were still having a discussion about, well, how we got to take Angela down. She is connected to all of this. So that's what makes me believe they don't have any of this stuff. So we have to see, obviously, how they play things out over the next couple episodes.
Yeah, that same scene you're talking about in the preview, that I feel like that's happened every episode this season.
Yes. You're right. Absolutely. So I will say this. I will give the writers the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what happens in the next couple episodes. But yeah, some of that stuff absolutely, positively needs to be explained. But I do like showing what's going on with Angela. And I really like the conversation she had with Jamie when she said, it's kind of like, you and I have switched places. Now I'm the dirty one and you're clean, even though we know Jamie ain't all the way clean. But I like how they made that comparison, because I see what the writers are trying to do. But let's see how they execute on the rest of this, because some stuff definitely should be explained further.
I also really quick just kind of love the dynamic between Jamie and Tasha with Angela. And especially during that scene, we'll get to later with Tasha's storyline. But remember the whole scene with Angela sitting back at the house with Jamie and Tasha just bursting in on them. It's like this weird dynamic that they have where you don't know exactly who's in power in that situation. Because it's weird, because you have Tasha going to Angela for basically advice and help for the case with the whole gun. And then at the same time, you have Angela going to Jamie saying, I need you, come help me, please. Both in her personal life and in her career, the police thing. So it's just a really weird dynamic. And then also at the same time, you have you have Tasha still kind of hating Jamie. So it's like their feelings for each other is just not there anymore. But basically they're still turning to advice for the woman that broke up their marriage. So it's like a weird dynamic. I like how they have it play.
I agree.
Yeah, yeah, that is a weird dynamic. But Rich, one thing you said, what was it? Damn, I lost my train of thought right there. What was it?
Was this a complaint?
No, there was something you said about Angela that I was gonna make a point about.
The conversation with ghosts?
No.
I'm pretty sure it'll come back to you.
It'll come to me. But yeah, any final thoughts about her before? Because I am gonna like touch on that scene Dana was talking about with the trio. I'm gonna get to that next. But any final thoughts on Angela?
Does Angela have a copy of everyone's house keys? Because I'm kind of confused. She's just like, "Hello, I'm home." It's just weird.
Her house is like Starbucks. Like everyone shows up there. Like, yeah.
And she's just popping in everyone else's home. It's like just an open door policy with everyone. It's weird because it's like, oh, everyone has a threat against their life, but their door is just wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what I was gonna say is, yeah, the whole thing with offering John Mark that job, that is a bit weird. That the guy offered it to her and she's trying to offer it to him. I'm guessing she's gonna try and butter him up somehow, like to give it to Mark instead if he agrees. But I do think that that's a stupid plan anyway, because that's just like a temporary band-aid, over the problem. Like, because the fact is still going to remain. Sax is going to be there still, and they're still going to know that she's dirty, and this could still come back to haunt her at any point. So the problem isn't going to go away. And you also have Rodriguez as well, the the internal affairs investigator. So she could stir the pot still as well at any point. So sending away John Mark isn't gonna patch things up for her. So I don't understand that plan in particular.
Based off of what you said earlier about them becoming a power couple, it's very likely that by the end of the season, she just tell Jamie, "I need you to kill these guys," and then Jamie does it. Then that's it. And then at the end, it is established, because I guess the people will be shocked, but no, they won't, because the way they're building Angela now, yeah, she's corrupt now. So we'll see.
There'll be a power couple in jail. That's how it'll end. But also, really quick, remember how she went to the guy and the guy was like, "I have, the DC, but the DC job, and you have to move to DC." And he didn't really explain what the job was. It was more like, "I don't care. I just need someplace to go." I still don't know his motive. So maybe he is gathering intel on her as well. So say, for example, she does take that job in DC. It's also to help the case against Angela, her trying to escape. So I think he plays some type of part in all of this.
That's very possible. We already seen that he definitely will turn on somebody quick.
Right, and he already knows that Angela is in trouble. Because remember, he was the one who isn't, I guess, remember that scene where he came in and I guess he was like in charge of the whole investigation?
Yeah.
A couple episodes ago. So he knows that she's dirty. He knows all of the intel. And by her still trying to butter up to him is not exactly something that can work in her favor, I feel. In the long run, I think it's going to do more harm than good. So that conversation that they had could easily backfire and lead to her downfall as well.
Yeah, I agree. And one more thing I want to say is, because it seems like a reoccurring thing in Power is, the way that these people like to solve problems is by killing someone. But it's like the more that happens, the more problems they're going to create. And, the current problem that she's in is because of a murder. So it's like, how would murder solve the problem? It's just gonna create more, because then eventually people are gonna, they're gonna like follow all the evidence and the clues towards that new murder that occurs. So if you kill John Mock, for example, you think that that's going to be a low priority case? Is like they're going to be investigating, that until they figure out what the hell went on, and they're going to find a lead eventually. So yeah, that's something that it's a bit of an extreme for Angela to go to, because she, like, as a Fed herself, she knows the extent of that they're going to go to find out what happened. So um, I don't know, and I guess they were talking about they were going to make it look like an accident or something, but
that doesn't even make any sense. It draws too much attention. Like all of a sudden he's randomly dead.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. I just don't get that. That's just too weird.
That I guess that'll be Fast and Furious all over again. It's that same character getting killed.
Darn it. I just realized that. I was like, he looks so familiar. Watch him for years. Fast and Furious, yeah. He aged nicely, so good for him.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he always dies in all of the movies. Rest is his character.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna include Jamie and Tasha in as one, because like a lot of their plot points are linked together during this episode. So we see Tasha telling Silver that Tariq killed Ray Ray, and Terry says that that Tariq should turn himself in, and Tasha uses her puppy eyes to get him to agree to lie, basically. And then, later on in the episode, we see some things happen with Tate and Jamie. Tate actually tries to fire Jamie, once Jamie confronts him about becoming the governor and everything, like, as he's running for governor. We don't even know how Jamie found that out, to be honest, because I think that happened off screen. But I guess Jamie finds out that he's running for governor somehow. And then, Jamie brings it up and then he fires him. But then later on, he finds out some dirt on Tate. He brings in one of the people that Tate works with to, I guess he's trying to like leverage himself and get some sort of control in the project and everything. And the guy lets slip that Tate is skimming money from the project and everything like that. So Jamie records that, and then he plays it to Tate later on. And, now he has Tate where he wants him, and he tells him to continue campaigning. And this is why, it's going to be really good if the whole power couple thing does come about, because if they have a governor in their pocket, that's a big deal too. So yeah, he has Tate and, where he wants him, basically. And he's in a position of power now with that friendship or relationship or whatever it is, partnership, if you will. And then later on, we see Jamie meeting with Silver, and he puts pressure on him to back up whatever, Tasha's story is, which is a really weird scene, because it's like, I don't know, like why he would have even done that. Like, well, there was like no point in doing that at all. And I guess that's what spooked Terry Silver to just disappear, because later on we see Tasha turn up to his apartment and he's completely gone, and she finds a subpoena. And like his whole apartment is just cleared out, like, so that was interesting. And then so at the end of the episode is the trio, and then like Tasha rushes in. She tells Angela and Jamie that Terry has disappeared, and now they're not gonna be able to control him testifying or whatever he's going to say about the situation. So the last trump card that Tasha has is the actual murder weapon. She still has it. And, I guess she plans to turn herself in and say that it was her that killed Ray Ray. And then James is basically like, no, I'm going to do it instead. I'm going to be the one to take the fall. And that's how the show ends. It was a bit of an abrupt ending, to be honest, but yeah, what did you guys think of that ending? Go ahead, Dana.
I thought that the whole Tasha storyline was the funniest thing ever, and I legit thought that Silver was robbed at first. I was so confused. But starting with Tasha, it's a very unfortunate situation, but you can't sit around and try to blackmail someone to, I think he was blackmailed. I think whatever it is that they did off camera to spook Silver into testifying, because no man is going to just up and just ghost you like that. So that right there was just hilarious into itself. But the whole Tate storyline also, I like this character. He is just downright dirty and greedy, and he reminds me of just like those terrible salesmen, this oily, and he's no good, but he's very interesting in his whole thing. And the fact that he's been trying to get rid of Jamie for a while, and Jamie, his own downfall was when he got drunk in the nightclub that one time and started to try to fight people. But I think that this is a very good storyline for him. He's stuck now with Ghost. I don't see, well, you already talked about Dre, so the whole thing, Dre's not on the case with him anymore. But their dynamic is going to be really interesting. And I like the fact that for once Tate is the one that's being blackmailed, because he easily looks like the guy who will blackmail you first. So that's a really nice switch with things, with their dynamic between them right there. And I didn't really feel like he was trying to, when he got the other guy to tell him that he was skimming money off the top, that guy seemed like he was way too excited to start explaining that. He was like, oh, you didn't know? Well, let me explain it to you. He's taking money. So that right there, I think he wanted to tell. And I think, that came very conveniently to him, that information. Him taping it, I didn't see that coming. That was a little bit surprised. So I like that he was able to tape it and use that as blackmail. So I think just, for the time being, he's stuck with him. And also remember, the Tate character has a spinoff. So it's going to be really fun to see how their relationship plays out. Or maybe as he's governor, he kind of fades out with the storyline and we just get that spinoff storyline. But the Tasha thing as well, that whole dynamic, her wanting to take the fall, and then Jamie was like, no, I'm Captain Save-A-Hole, I'll do it instead. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and who ends up taking the blame for that. I think, again, this is when Angela comes into the picture. But the whole thing with Tasha, remember when she was being questioned, how even she didn't know whether or not to believe Angela? Remember how they was going, Angela was trying to frame the murder on you because Ghost really killed them, and so they can run away together in the sunset while you're taking the blame. And then it went down to Angela was the one who found the bullet, and the bullet in the wall was the one that traced it back to your gun. If she never opened her mouth, then you wouldn't be in this predicament right now. So she doesn't really trust Angela. So while she is saying, I'll take the fall, I think she may end up taking that case, but somehow not blaming Jamie for the murder, but pinning it all on Angela. So that will be fun to see how that plays out. But I think that she somehow wants to get retribution against Angela because she, in her mind, really thinks that Angela was the one who set her up to take the fall. She knows that Jamie didn't kill her son, but the way how it was twisted and how they filmed it, where they went with the flashbacks of her coming and meeting Tasha all those times and her by the car, I do think that Angela's fall could also be because of Tasha. So I like to see how that plays out. But I think they incorporated that scene. They put that distrust with Angela for a reason. Because remember, she was trusting her and going every word that she told her to say. Remember, they was having the meetings in the coffee shop, and she was, they even when they showed her in the interrogation room, how they had the flashbacks of her telling her what to say, and she was saying exactly what to say and what to prepare for. So by them saying that Angela was the one who probably framed you guys and all these, and the whole thing with the bullet in the wall, that may end up having her thinking twice about this whole thing. And she's angry. And when women get angry, they do things. So who knows? I don't think it's going to be a revenge for the whole thing with Jamie. That I think is done and over with. But it also could be Angela right now she thinks is framing her. Also, Silver just bounced, so she doesn't really have anyone anymore. So she just may end up turning. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, interesting thoughts there. What do you think, Rich?
So first and foremost, I have to say this. Was not expecting Thanos to make an appearance on Power this week, because with the snap of a finger, Terry and everything of Terry's was gone. So that was a little, because I mean he bounced. It was quick, and I laughed because last week they had that whole discussion where, you know, Tasha's telling Ghost, yeah, Terry loved me more than you've ever loved me, and yet you've only known Terry for a short period of time. So yeah, we you know, you said last week, Gary, you know, is probably, you know, we know how Terry's character is. We saw what he did with Proctor. So yeah, him ultimately making that decision because he was forced, you know, now that's the thing that I think is going to be a fair question to ask. Is it all because Ghost came to him and pushed on him further, or was he already going to do that? I mean, I have no idea. But I definitely think Jamie pressured him further because again, Tasha kept saying, oh, I'm not doing this for Ghost. I'm trying to protect Tariq. But he knows that also this would benefit Ghost as well. So this is why he said, no, I'm not going to be a part of this. So Tasha's situation is very unfortunate, but she does have options. You know, she can go along with Blanco's plan to say that, you know, Angela and Ghost, that they both played a role in this, and she can get immunity that way. Or she could decide to turn herself in. Now, one thing I do want to say is because we've already seen the writers put Ghost in jail, I don't really think they're going to go the same path with that this time. Now, they can. Now, obviously, as Dana already said earlier, you could send the power couple to jail. That would be different because, yeah, they both end up in jail. But for some reason, I don't think they're going to say, because we've already seen Ghost put in jail, how depressed he was, how out of luck the character was. So I don't know if they're going to go that route again. I do think if you have Angela go in there, or Tasha for that matter, that'll be interesting. But then that's also going to be tied to Tariq's story because he is the one that was, you know, obviously he didn't want his mom to do that. He said he was willing to confess and say he did it. So obviously, if Tasha does end up going to jail, he's going to look at that as, well, Ghost, my father didn't stop this from happening. So now he has even more resentment towards his father. So I do think whatever happens with that decision is going to definitely come right back to Tariq, and that's also going to feed into how he is acting out right now. But which path they go, they have a lot of different paths that they can take. But we'll have to see how that plays out. And one thing I will add very quickly about Ghost, I was very glad to see the scene where he put Tate in his place, getting back at Tate. But I will say this, if Tate is going to have a spinoff show, you have to know that this character, I believe this is going to still be a back and forth with these two guys, because Jamie is not all, safe at all. He has all this other stuff going on, and, Tate can very easily now come back at him on something. So we have to wait to see how it all plays out. But, yeah, I would say there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with both Ghost and Tasha, and I'll be very curious to see which path that they take. I just want to say one thing to Stars. Now that Terry is gone, his ass needs to stay gone. I don't want to have a scene, like a dramatic scene, where he just comes back and then there's a lot of tears and stuff. No, I just couldn't let you go down. No, they better not do that. Although I do see that if Tasha does go away to jail, then he could come back at Jamie and use that as motivation to take Jamie down. So we got to see how that is all going to play out. But I just hope if they're going to bring him back, let's not go the cliche route. But I would prefer he doesn't come back at all. But we'll have to see what the writers have planned.
But it's great bookends if she does go to jail, because it's like he went to jail, now it's her turn.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And
He went to jail for something he didn't do, right? Was it?
That's correct. That's correct.
And so Tasha, boom, jail for something she didn't do. That's great. I'm for it. Go to jail.
And then,
Everyone goes to.
And then what will happen is Terry will come back and say, you know what? All that stuff that I said about representing Mr. St. Patrick, there's a lot of stuff you need to know about him. And now, but that would also put him in trouble as well, though, since he lied under oath. So I don't know how they would handle that.
Well, one thing's for certain. Terry Silver had U-Haul on speed dial because he got out there quick, man. But yeah, like I definitely think Tasha should take the rap because I feel like that will build more tension for everyone. You know, Jamie, of course, you know, like Rich said, we've already seen him in that situation in prison and everything. So I don't think they would go with that direction again until maybe like the end of the show period kind of thing, like the finale. I think it makes more sense to have Tasha take the rap, and then that could build more tension between Jamie and Tariq, because maybe Tariq will blame Jamie for getting her, you know, locked up and everything, and that creates more friction between them. But I do feel like inevitably, if Tasha does come out, I think it's going to be because somewhere along the line, they figure out that Tariq was actually the one that did it. So maybe what happens is next season, Tariq and Kanan become so out of control that maybe Jamie thinks, you know what? I think it's about time he goes to jail. Like, you know, I don't want to kill my son, so maybe he just needs to go to jail right now. So
no, it's a big thing. That's not your son. That's really my son. Shootout. Tariq dies. I'm for it. I'm all for it. So well, in my perfect world, I would not have Tasha take the fall. In a perfect world, I would have Tariq take the fall, because throughout this whole show, he's needed a scared straight program. And what better way than to actually go to jail?
Exactly. That's my thinking. Like maybe Jamie, maybe that's the decision Jamie makes next season. You know, maybe Tasha takes the rap, but then, you know, he like Tariq is so out of control with Kanan that he's like, you know what, I'll just get Angela to, you know, discover some evidence or something that shows that Tariq was actually the one that did the murder, and then voila, then he's in prison and Tasha's out. So maybe that's something that might happen.
That's true. That could happen like mid-season, because right now I see him being distracted with Kanan, and also he's going to have his little pill popping drug business on the side.
Yeah. I think the pill popping business is temporary. I think he's going to like leave school and like actually be in Kanan's drug organization by the end of the season.
Yeah, but he can still do his little pill popping thing too. Like that's like the little baby steps to becoming a drug lord. Here's some ecstasy pills. Then soon he's pushing heroin.
Yeah.
So it works.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many interesting directions it can go. You know, I really don't want to see Angela behind bars. Like, I feel like the show is more interesting with her outside. But that's just me. You know, I know other people feel differently. But yeah, I think that's probably the best scenario, is to have Tasha take the rap. Or, you know, or even maybe Tariq, you know, maybe they'll put Tariq in at the end of the season. Maybe that's the big plot twist or the big wow moment. But yeah, I don't know, so many different directions it can go. But before we get out of here, are there any final thoughts or anything else from the episode that you guys want to bring up?
Yeah, I do want to make a quick comment. I'm very interested to see what's about to happen with Proctor. One thing about this episode that I admit that I did not like is that now we do know that he is basically going to try and get information on Angela so that he is totally clear. But yet, you know, because it starts out with him having a conversation with Saxon, like, oh yeah, just I can make 2 phone calls and you'll be a lawyer again. And by the end of the episode, he says, "Oh, I'm a lawyer again." But I thought the agreement was first you help us take down Angela, then we will help you. So I thought that was maybe a little bit too fast. But obviously, now that he has done that, he is in debt to them, and he's going to be somebody who they're going to be trying to rely. Because you saw in this episode, he asked Tommy for information as well. So I'm curious to know how they're going to handle that, because he pretty much is now. This is somebody who you got to worry about, obviously. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes.
Now, what happened was because first Sack said yeah, if you give us the information, then I'll make the phone call. But then Proctor was like, how about you make the phone call first, and then I'll get the information. And then Sax actually made the phone call. So that's so I guess it's assumed that whatever miracle phone call that was, that reinstated Proctor right away. So
now Proctor and Teresi owe it to these guys to give them all the information they need. So this is a very, very dangerous situation moving forward.
Yep, and don't forget, Proctor still has that laptop with all the incriminating stuff.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
and can I just say really quickly how tacky it was, how he handled the, I guess, baby mama in the drama by trying to put the coke in with the alimony check.
yeah.
How amazing is that? I thought it was gonna be one of those things where the thing is riddled with coke, and then she gets found with coke later on, or he just slips it in there and she doesn't know. But that whole thing was just tacky.
That was an asshole move though, because he knows she's going to rehab, so it's like, why would you like?
She's literally at the PA meeting, and he's like, "Here's some coke."
He just figured she was going to see that and all of a sudden leave the meeting. No, I got to get my fix right now. The hell with this meeting. That's what he thought, I guess. But yeah, it was very, very, very bad, very, very bad move.
So yeah, I was just confused by that whole situation. So he also has to worry about the child support, not the child support, the custody battle that's going on. So he has a lot he's dealing with right now. But, just be smarter. Don't just put the bag of coke in there with the money and be like, surprise.
Jeez. Yeah, that was a
But good for throwing it back at him. That was a big move.
Yeah, man. As I keep saying, this season has so many threads. Like, there's so many different, plot points and everything, and I just really want to see how they bring it all together. I feel like a few people need to die, because it's like there's just too much going on right now, and I want to see them just simplify things again, so that next season we can have more of a straightforward kind of story that's I mean, it doesn't have to be easy to follow, but like it needs to be more seamless. I feel like it's going too many different directions right now, and that's kind of hurting the progression of the actual characters themselves. So I'm interested to see how they're going to tie everything up in this season, and hopefully it sets up a really good season 6. So we'll study these next 3 episodes very closely just to see what happens. But yeah, any more final thoughts before we end off?
Yeah. The final thing I will say is to go along with what you say. Yeah, I definitely expect some deaths. I expect Angela to do a full heel turn by the end of the season. A full, killing people, everything. Yeah, I expect that to happen. Oh. And Tommy will probably kill his dad, just like he killed his girlfriend, he would take a very huge emotional toll on him. But yeah, whatever happens, I agree with you 100%. Some people need to die, so hopefully the writers have some stuff planned for the next 3 episodes. But we'll see what happens.
They all die. Everyone dies. The end. But yeah, I agree. People need to start dropping dead pretty soon.
No, I think what happens is, because Richard brought up Thanos earlier, I think what happens is this season leads to the point where Thanos actually clicks his fingers and then half the cast dies. So
yeah, that's possible.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for listening, people. Definitely leave your comments and your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Definitely want to hear what some of the people got to say, like Nelly Mac and Angel Wood. I can't wait to see what they think of this episode and what they think is going to happen next, because they always go into detail, and they got great memories too. They remember like everything that happened before and stuff. So can't wait to hear what they say. But thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week with a recap of episode 8. So, yeah, definitely look out for that. Make sure you check out the Koalition.com. That's Koalition with a K. Check out some of the other entertainment and, gaming stuff we have over there. And, just check out the YouTube channel as well. And until next time, we're saying peace out. See you.
So.